like it wasn't easy, and I did a lot, maybe too much at times, especially trying to compete and do that. But I just knew like is the platform I've been given, and I've got to be able to use it for the sport and for the next generation and for these young girls. Um, and it was just like, man, I grew up, Dodger fan, and here now, these my daughter now, it's so cool. Like she's watching softball on TV every weekend, especially with postseason coming around. Like it's just an honor to be a part of and to have the opportunity.
The Players Pod is proud to be sponsored by longtime partner WIS. As your go-to accounting and growth partner, WIS understands the power of teamwork, and they're ready to take your business to the next level. To learn more about how WIS can help you succeed, head over to WIS.com. That's WISS.com to accelerate your company's journey today. Jennie Finch is one of the most dominant and impactful softball players of all time. On the mound, she won an NCAA championship at Arizona, where she was twice named the National Player of the Year. With Team USA, Jennie won gold in Athens in 2004 and silver in 2008. Off the mound, she's credited with introducing a whole new generation of fans to the sport. Often considered the most famous softball player in history, Jennie retired from the sport in 2010 to focus on her family. Since then, she has continued to stay involved with the sport as both a coach and a commentator. Jennie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. Thanks for taking the time. Where are we finding you today?
I am in Louisiana and I'm outside and I'm sweating. It's super hot.
Oh,
Summer's
no.
here. Yes.
Well, it's like 95 degrees in DC today, so I can imagine how hot it is in Louisiana.
Yes, it's warm. Warm.
Yeah, I'm sure. And the humidity is probably cranked up too.
Of course.
So we're going to jump into your legendary career, but I first want to start with, where you're at today in life. And so what does like a day in the life of Jennie Finch look like right now?
Right now, I'm telling my kids to get off the internet because they're stealing all of our internet. Like, you could switch to the other one. I'm like, no, get off the Xbox, please. So that's right there. Welcome to my world. So I have three kids.
That's incredible.
Yes, the battle is real. Internet is, well, especially we live in the country. So we're kind of a little bit past dial up.
Yeah.
So it's not the greatest. But yeah, we have three kids. 16 is our oldest Ace. And then Diesel is our middle son. And he is, 10? And then I have a little girl that is 9. And so we are just in the thick of it, loving it, watching them just do what they love and trying to keep our house just sane, I guess, with the craziness of the schedule. But yeah, I never know what the day is going to bring. Like I try to work out. It doesn't happen as of late very often. But I try to sneak it in every now and then. Today I did. I got up and ran bleachers. So that was a big win for me.
Nice.
Yeah. So we have a business, Diamond D Industries. It's a highline clearing and access business that we started about 3 years ago. Excuse me.
Okay.
And so that's been kind of like what we've been doing lately. It's kind of taken off, and we've had crazy hurricane storms down here, which has led to a lot of business and crazy fast growth.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's good. I'm ambassador for Major League Baseball. I coach my daughter's team, so I'm still in the game of softball, which I love and fills my cup, and I get to lead these little ones. So it's fun, challenging, but fun. And yeah, just we're living in Southwest Louisiana on a ranch with some cattle and kind of living the slow pace of life somewhat.
You're living the life. I love that. So you said your daughter plays softball. Did any of your sons get into baseball?
Yes. So
okay,
both
so
of them,
all kids are playing softball or baseball.
Yes. Yeah. They play other sports too. So my oldest is just going to be a sophomore. So he played football and not basketball. He played basketball in middle school, but he just decided to go 2 sports for high school. So football and baseball. And then my son, he plays, whatever's going on, football, basketball, and baseball. But we're in like the travel ball circuit of baseball and softball with the 2 little ones. Yeah.
Nice. So you are, definitely busy. So I want to go back to when you first started playing softball. How did that come to be? And what did like your intro to softball look like?
So I have two older brothers, and but one's 10 years older, one's 5 years older. So they're quite a bit older. So our house was filled with boys, and they played baseball, basketball, whatever sport was happening. It was always just kind of a crazy sports filled house. And I fell in love with softball. My parents signed me up to play t-ball when I was 5. We were Dodger fans.
Okay.
So I wanted to be a Dodger. And as I got older, I was like, wait a minute, there's no women in the major leagues. Like, how is this going to work? But that kind of sparked the interest of, I think, the diamond sport, and it just kind of clicked. And so I was bigger than a lot of kids, still am. And so I could kind of throw hard and far. And so that kind of led me down that path. Started pitching when I was 8.
Wow. So any other sports besides softball, or did you try softball and you're like, I love this. This is what I want to do?
So I played softball all growing up, but I did play volleyball and basketball all 4 years of high school. I loved it. Volleyball was probably my favorite. Like, my dream was to be like a beach volleyball player.
Really?
Never happened. I remember we were at like Pan Am's, and like we couldn't even beat like the security guards in Brazil, like of like the village that we were living in. And me and my teammate got smoked, and we're like, all right, there goes our beach volleyball plans for post softball life.
Yeah.
But no, love volleyball, and I'm so thankful that I was able to play more than one sport. I mean, softball was obviously kind of the priority, but I just think it helped me in so many ways to be able to play more than one sport.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So you started at 5 in softball, but you started pitching at 8. So what led you into pitching? Because I'm not that well versed in softball or in how it develops. And, I played T-ball one season, then I was like, okay, this isn't for me. So I don't know how you go from you're playing your first season to then you're like, oh no, I want to be the pitcher.
So I think our coach like lined us all up, and whoever could throw strikes, like that's what it comes down to. Like, yeah, you got to be able to throw hard and make it to the home plate, but like if you can throw strikes, the ball is in your hand. And of course, like there's not much going on in the first few years of kid pitch. And so it's like, man, you either want to be like pitcher, catcher, or first base, because that's where all the action is. And so I could kind of sort of do both, and it just kind of stuck.
So was there you weren't into catcher or first base? You were just like, no, pitchers for me.
No, so I did play first base. I'm 6'1", and so I feel like, tall girls, you can catch balls wherever, with wingspan and reach and all of big target. So I played first base, played some third base as well. So mixed it up some, but primarily like throughout my career, it was always pitcher or first base.
And what drew you besides like, oh, it's, pitcher, first base, catcher, something it's a more active position in those younger years. How quickly were you drawn into the technicality of pitching and just like what goes into perfecting that? Because it's such a specific technical position.
Yeah. Like my dad became my pitching coach. And so it was kind of just ingrained, and there's a lot of pressure because it's like, man, the ball's in your hands and your teammates can kind of get away with not practicing during the week. But like as a pitcher, like, man, if you take time off, your timing's jacked up, you're not able to throw strikes, your speed, your consistency aren't there. And those two things are, critical in softball. And so I would say probably like 10 is when it got serious. I competed my first nationals and it was like, okay, this could be something special. And then kind of hit the more competitive travel ball road after that. And then kind of that's just what I did. I'm sure you know it all too well, right? Like,
yeah,
just becomes you.
It snowballs. I did read, or I heard that when you were 12, a coach told you that you'd never be a championship pitcher. Do you remember that? And do you think that changed your career, or how you approached the game, or how you looked at yourself as a pitcher?
Heck yeah, I totally remember it. I just remember like that feeling of just being like, what? Like, just kind of being thrown a label and wait, I haven't even had the opportunity to like pitch in a championship game. So how can you tell me that, And then it became motivation, honestly. Like, it didn't last very long on that team because obviously I knew like this was not the positive environment and place that I wanted to be. And then led me down to the nationals 6 months later, and we sent them home to California. And I think just for me, like, that was a pivotal point for me, not only as an athlete, but as a person. Like, wait a minute, man, who is this guy? Like, yeah, he has status in the softball world, but he has no control or power over me or what I can do or can't do, kind of thing. And I learned pretty quick too. It's like, you take whatever you want out of it. Like, I could have been bitter, I could have been mad, which there was probably some of those emotions too, but I was able to like redirect that into like fuel and determination and motivation. And so looking back, like, I never would have dreamt that I would say like, I'm so thankful for that punk of a coach to say that, but I totally am. Like, and all throughout my career, like, some of those losses that just sting so bad. And, looking back, but it's like, man, like, if I didn't have that loss, if I didn't endure that, like, I would have never been able to reach the point that I was, and appreciate those victories that come as well.
Couldn't agree more. So you said that was around 12 and you ended up sending that team home later on.
Yeah, from national. So we played in Tennessee, and we're playing, and we ended up beating them. And it was like, for us, that was like our championship game. Like, see ya,
Yeah.
We went on and sent them home back to California.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So at what point in your teen years were you like, I can be and will be a championship and one of the best pitchers ever? Did that like, at what point were you like, oh, I could be that?
Well, I feel like you get that question a lot. Like, when did you know that you made it? And it was like, did I ever make it? Like, man, when you're in the thick of it, like, you're just trying to stay and, compete and earn the ball in your hand, trying to be on the spot. And I think too, like, being a part of the national team and all of that, it's like, man, like, you win. And then you're already thinking like, man, I have to try out, a couple months later. Like, you never ever know you make it. So I think you just stay in the grind, and that's the fun part, is trying to maintain that.
For sure. I completely agree as well. So you said national team. Was there youth national team growing up? And did that funnel you into the full team? Like, what did that look like for softball?
Yeah. So for us, like, we had national championships, and that was ASA, which was our governing body. So they were ASA USA softball. Now it's just USA softball. But so that kind of led to it. I competed at a juniors game. I think I was 16 in Georgia, and that was like my first international experience. And then I got the opportunity to be on the junior Olympic team and compete in Taiwan. And so, excuse me.
Bless you.
Dang it. Sorry.
Okay.
I couldn't hold it in. I tried.
No, you gotta let it
out. Gosh, what was I? 18, I think.
Okay.
Headed to Taiwan. And just what a thrill that was. Like, my first just international experience. Like, I've been to Tijuana before, but that was it, and here we were traveling across the world to go play softball. And I just remember thinking like, man, and just so in awe of just the different cultures and traditions and style of play, and just the ways of communication and all of those things. Like, just, wow, how eye-opening it was, and just what a great experience that was.
Yeah. And to think that that was the beginning, and you would go all over the world for softball and compete in Olympics and win a gold medal, which is incredible. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but I first want to talk about, or I want to touch on, before we get to gold medals, Arizona. How did you end up at Arizona? What made you want to go there?
So honestly, I had 4 girls that I played travel ball with, and they were a year older than me, and they went to Arizona. And so it was like, man, those are my girls. And I ended up taking like 2 trips, because first of all, I didn't really like to be away from home much. And then it was like, I narrowed it down. I knew I wanted either University of Washington or Arizona, and went to Washington, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, just being a part and being able to see and tap into, collegiate athletics and the world of college sports was just so, I just remember being like, this is incredible. My parents like, you need to get home, go to Arizona and then decide. And I remember like went home, went to Arizona, and the first night I called home, I was like, this is where I want to go. So
Really? Wow, it's
I
quick.
felt it. Yeah, I felt it. Coach Candrea was just like a second father figure kind of to all the team, and just under his leadership and the whole town, the way they just embraced college softball and the platform and the tradition, I would say probably was one of the biggest factors going in of just the tradition of winning a national championship and of excellence. Like I wanted to be a part of that.
That's awesome. How old were you when you committed?
I was, I want to say it was beginning of my senior year or like end
Okay.
of junior year. Yeah.
Okay.
So it
So
wasn't
not
like the
too early,
crazy
but
early. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm always
Thank
curious
God.
about that because yeah, because I feel like so many athletes or teenagers looking to go to college feel the pressure to commit so early, and it's put on them
Mhm.
by parents, by coaches, even other players sometimes, just because one player commits, the next one wants to do it too. So I'm always curious because I committed like beginning of my senior year. So and I
Yeah.
always think it's like good to wait and think about it. But so you had friends at Arizona. You knew some of the players that were there, but how was the transition from high school to college?
It was intense. It was
Yeah.
intense, but it was so fun. Like this was a dream world. I mean, like I'm not gonna lie, like the education was incredible. I probably didn't appreciate, or I know I didn't appreciate it like I should have. But I was there to play softball and win a national championship, and to be able to be under Coach Candrea and to be around these women who were amazing and pushed me beyond my limits, and the strength coach, and to have this whole environment and whole team like there to try to assist you and help you and guide you, and then to be able to do it with, your sisters, the sisterhood of being an Arizona Wildcat was everything. It was a dream for sure. It was a lot of hard work. Um, time management. That was like I would say the biggest, I'm sure, right? You know it all too well. Just being able to
Yeah.
be on your own and having to be disciplined about what you're doing, how you're doing it, all of those things. But it was some of the best years of my life for sure.
When you got to Arizona, were you already thinking, how am I going to use college to take me to the next level to be going to a Olympics one day? Or were you not even thinking that far in advance? You were more so thinking or focused just on having the best college career you could have.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like this season,
Mm.
this next game, I feel like of course you dream and you hope,
Okay.
but there, other than the Olympics, there still to this day, like we're struggling so hard to provide an opportunity for us to continue on and play. And so for us, it was like the Olympics, but there's only 15 girls to go on and play the Olympics. And so it was just, this is it. This is, I dreamt of being an Olympian. And I remember watching the Sydney Olympic Games. That was while I was in college.
Mm.
And so I just remember like, man, I would love to do that. But honestly, like this next national championship was the priority and where I was. And I think it was so uncertain and like up in the air, really, as far as like what the potential opportunities were besides that for the top 15. And I mean, there was my first year on the Olympic team, there was 4 women of that 15 that had competed in the 2 Olympics prior to.
Oh,
So it's like,
wow.
not only is there only 15 spots, but like 4 of them are taken from these veterans that have been there. So there's not that much, opportunity to go there. So just to be able to be a part of it was a dream and a thrill. But I couldn't
Yeah.
really see that in college. It was more of just, man, trying to win a national championship.
Well, you smashed your college career, especially your junior year at Arizona. It was one of the most dominant pitching stretches ever. I want to read off these stats because they're pretty insane. You went 32-0 with a .54 ERA, all while hitting .313 with 11 doubles and 11 homers at the plate. You didn't lose a single game that you pitched, and which just goes to show like a lot of people chase a perfect game, but you had a perfect season. So, and then on top of that, you pitch a shutout in the championship game to win the title. So that to me is just like, I see you smiling, which I like
But can I
love.
can I just tell you, like, before that championship game, it was like, do not let this be the game that you lose, right? Like, so
Okay,
just that was like the whole, that was just crazy. But no, I had an insane team behind me. I mean, just the best defense, best offense. It was truly a team effort, but it was a dream season for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Like, it's an incredible in every category. Amazing. So you said that going into the championship game, you're like, don't let this be the game that you mess up, or,
Well, like I mean, as an athlete, you like that, you don't want to give in to that negative voice, but
yes,
it's there. And how can you not? And, it was this whole hype leading up of undefeated season and all of this. So every game it was like, is she going to do it? Is she going to do it? And I tried to always just deflect it like back to the team. And honestly, like I could care less about my personal stats. It was winning a national championship. We had 8 seniors that year, and they would have been like the first class not to win a national championship in like the last 13, 14 years or something. And so it was like my pressure, I wanted it more for them than anything, because there was 8 of them in that class above me. And so, man, you wanted to be the last team standing. You didn't really care about the personal stats, that was extra, I guess.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. I'm curious though. I talked to Sue Bird about what it was like to be an undefeated college basketball team. And she said it was actually relaxed in a sense because they were all so individually locked in and like knew exactly what they had to do. So I'm curious if you guys felt similarly, or no, there was a lot more pressure, tension, expectation. Because my senior year at Stanford, we went undefeated until the national championship, and then we lost. And I felt immense stress and pressure, and like did not feel like, oh, we got it, not in the bag. I don't think that's what she was saying, but I didn't really feel relaxed in any way, shape, or form. So I'm curious if you can relate to that, or if you felt differently.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say I was pretty relaxed and not just so confident in my teammates, my defense, my training, my preparation, our coaching staff, like so confident. So like, but then you get to that final game and it's like, okay, here we go. Like, did we do all of this to, like, and so towards the end, I guess I was feeling more, but then it was just like this constant, like, no, one pitch at a time. And, just kind of more focused. You just try to shift your thinking like away from that as much as possible, even though it's kind of there, but you just try to vary it, I think. And just for me, it was more of just, okay, like being present in the task at hand, like who's the next hitter, what's the next pitch, versus just thinking about kind of the situation and all of that,
How did it feel when you won the national championship game and to know that you pitched a shutout?
Oh, I could care less about that. Like, we just won. Like, it was honestly, like, I was so relieved because these 8 seniors were like my big sisters, and they won. Like, they have a championship. My mission's done. Like, I'm good. I can relax now because they have a ring and we did it. And like before we would have like themes and just a lot went into it. And that year we're just like, screw it. Like, win the last game.
Just
like
win.
Win. Like, was like, we don't want anything. We don't want any themes, mantras, nothing. Like, we just want to get there. We want to win. Like, let's go.
Themes meaning like sayings or something around the team.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, you know how you open up the season, kind of like this is going to be our whatever.
Got
so
it.
We don't want any of that. Like, no, we're done with the nonsense. Like, we just need to win, and that's what matters.
I love that. Oh, that's so good. Every successful athlete and entrepreneur knows that setbacks, mistakes, and losses are all a part of becoming a champion. Like a great coach or teammate, WIS helps business leaders find the vision and strength they need to succeed. Whether it's international taxes or advice around staffing, mergers, and finance, WIS is ready to assist your company in its championship journey. As proud supporters of female entrepreneurs, WIS not only sponsors the Players Pod, but they also sponsor the Just Women Sports brand new Ballers Market, a first of its kind online marketplace for female athlete entrepreneurs. You can check it out at justwomensports.com/ballers-marketplace. To further this mission, WIS is giving away an unreal prize package of Ballers Market gear and JWS swag. To enter the giveaway, tweet at both Just Women Sports at JustWSports and WIS at WIS LLP with the name of a coach who has helped you succeed either on or off the field. And then head to WIS.com, that's WISS.com, to learn how WIS can help you turn a setback into a winning opportunity.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Dawn Staley, and I know you all have been hearing me talk about UFOs, but I wanted to really drive it home for you how much I love these recovery slippers, and I'm just so excited to share them with you. Believe me when I tell you, once you try these, you'll never wear another slide a day in your life, especially if you got knees and ankles like mine. But I'm not stopping. UFOs allows me to stay active, walking my boy champ, working out, and of course, coaching. Each pair have this incredible technology and footbed that cradles your arches, and UFOs are developed with intention to reduce stress on the body and help you recover. And it works. Trust me on this. I know a lot of athletes who wear UFOs regularly and love them, but I also know a lot of nurses and teachers who use them. They're that good. Check them out at UFOs.com. That's OOFOS.com. They have a ton of different styles, but all with the same foam and footbed. They are seriously life-changing footwear.
You've been a coach, you've been a commentator, you've stayed very involved in the game. So if you gave a scouting report on yourself, what do you think it was that made you such a dominant pitcher?
I don't know. I mean, I would just say like spin on the ball, hitting location. And I could probably throw, I could throw to pretty much like any area. So it wasn't, my dad always instilled in me, like, I never want you to have a go-to pitch, because if you have a go-to pitch, then everyone pretty much knows what's coming. Yep. And so it was like, I always strive to like be able to throw any pitch in any count, any situation. And obviously there were certain parts of my career where like 2 or 3 pitches were better than my other ones, or one was, more dominant. But for the most part, like I had kind of tools in my back pocket to kind of pull out if I needed to.
I love that, but what would you, if you were a scout or you were scouting yourself for a hitter, what would you tell a hitter as to like how they could hit your pitches?
I would say
a batter. It's called a batter, not a hitter.
Batter. No, it's both. You're good. Hitter or batter.
Okay. Oh my God.
I would say just attack early, because I like to get ahead in the count. My pitches are for the most part around the zone, and so it's just, get ahead early in the count. Don't go deep, because then you're going to get, one of her nasty pitches.
Sneaky ones? Wait,
I prefer nasty over sneaky, but maybe sneaky, okay. Maybe change up.
Okay. I don't know.
Pitches, yeah. Like crazy break, like, man, good luck,
Nasty pitches.
Spin the ball
like
crazy.
I like that. Get ahead early means like swing on one of your first pitches.
Yeah. So like good pitchers try to get ahead earlier, and then, I have 2 strikes. I can mess around. I can throw junk. I can kind of try to get him to chase.
Got it. Yeah. Got it. I love it. I love the strategy that goes into it, because it's just like, I feel like it's mind games half the time.
Oh, totally. I mean, a lot of it's physical, but then again,
yes.
It's, and I think the greatest part of a game is like the camaraderie between you and your catcher. And just like you said, that strategy of like, hey, this is our plan of attack. And, a lot of coaches call signals now. And I was like, I would not want my coach to call a pitch, just because I feel like my catcher and I, like, we got this. And there's just something about, pitching and receiving, and that feeling of being in it and seeing where their hands are, where they're standing in the batter's box, all of those things.
Meaning where the batter's hands are.
Yes.
Okay, so the catcher's like, oh, I think this batter's trying to do this, and then they signal to you, you should do this.
Right. Or just like their swing, or what they're looking for, or even like where they're standing in the batter's box.
Yep. Okay. I love that. That's so
taking
cool.
in all that information that like a coach on the sidelines won't be able to. I mean, you have stats and you have tendencies and you have the scouting report, but there's something about being in it in that moment. Like, man, this is the pitch I want to throw right now.
For sure. So you leave college a national champion, have an incredible college career. You said that in college you were very much so focused, next game, next pitch, weren't looking ahead. So at what point did you realize Athens, right, 2004, was a possibility? And how did that look leading into that and making that team?
So I think after, winning the national championship, I think, and that was in 2001. So it's kind of like setting, I made the world championship team in 2002. And that was my first event of like on the national stage of women's, not just junior, but, and then for us, world championships is the only other event besides the Olympics that the whole entire world competes in. So that's a big event for us. It's the Olympics, and then in between the Olympic years is world championships. And that's, our two big events. And so I knew, I was like, man, okay, I need to be on that world championship team, and then made it, got the experience, and then ended up kind of staying on the national team until obviously the Olympics in 2004.
And what did it feel like to become an Olympian?
So it was so many emotions. It was a complete dream. And here I was, like, I was in Lisa Fernandez's autograph line for her, like the Atlanta Games, like when they came on tour. And now I'm like in the bullpen with her, training with her, teammates with her, like, what? This is just insane. And so you're in awe, but at the same time, like you're with them and you're one of them, and so Kat and I were the two young pitchers on the staff, kind of, coming in, and Lisa was obviously the veteran, and Lori Harrigan was the veteran. So we had just a great mix of young and old, and our leadership, and being able to go to Athens, Greece was just surreal, like right where the Olympics began. And and I remember, but like at the same time you put on that uniform and it's like, I still don't feel like an Olympian.
Really?
Like you made the Olympic team, but it's like, man, like when it's you, it's just different, right? And then having gone through the games, then it's like, okay, like I just did that. But then I remember coming home and I'm like sitting on the couch and being like, I'm an Olympian, but like, like it's just, I don't know. You share, like, how did you feel?
I can understand that experience and perspective of like, I'm an Olympian, and then like you're going through it and you're like, oh, like this is the Olympics. And to me, it was the pressure and the expectation and the desire to win. So like, that's the full focus. I really didn't get to feel Olympic until maybe after we won. Because we didn't go to the opening ceremonies.
Same.
And so it just felt like not another tournament by any means, but just, I can see how it's a surreal experience, especially I as a kid, very much so. Olympics was what I saw as the pinnacle of sport, as opposed to like soccer, World Cup being the pinnacle. So to me, it was like to be an Olympian is to be like the most elite level of an athlete. So I think for me, that was my biggest thing. And the feeling of Team USA, because you're like, that's what I always think about when I think Olympics is your teammates with all these other athletes on all these other sports or in all these other sports. And I think it's such a cool, surreal, experience, I guess.
Totally. I know we didn't go in 2004 to the opening. And I just remember like sitting next to Natasha Watley. We were like in the training room because that's the only way we could see the opening. And I was like, Tosh, I feel like we're on the couch at home. Like, are we really here? Like, are we here? And I totally can relate to you're so task orientated, and it's business. Like it's not Olympics. Like it's there to get your job done. And I know with both of us, just the standard of gold and excellence. So being a part of that, being able to try to maintain it and carry that.
So at what point did you feel Olympic? Like, did you feel like once you guys won the gold medal game and you're getting the medal placed around your neck, like when did you feel like, oh, I'm an Olympic gold medalist?
Yeah, probably like coming home.
Really?
Like, I mean, yes, the gold medal podium for sure. And then you're like, man, I have this that I've heard so many people talk about and my teammates talk about. And, man, like we spent our whole lives in the last year as a unit training for this one moment, and then coming home is like, we did that, like we just did that. And then to see us on the cover of Sports Illustrated and, just to see the platform that we had for softball and the doors open for our sport was really, really cool.
So what did between 2004 and 2008 look like for you in terms of playing and staying prepared for Olympics in 2008? Because you've kind of touched on it, how softball's had a very rocky standing. You know, there's not a lot of opportunity. Even today, there's not a ton of opportunity for players to play post-college unless they're playing for the national team. There's AU now. But what did your preparation and how did you stay on top of your game for those 4 years?
Yeah. So actually I ended up getting married in 2005, and then I ended up getting pregnant. And so I had my son May of 2006. And I just remember calling coach and being like, Coach, I'm pregnant. And he'll be like, well, and I'm like, but I'll be back. And then that year it was leading up to Beijing, and our world championships in 2006 was in Beijing. And so I just remember like thinking like, I have got to make that world championship team in order to be ready for 2008 and Beijing, to have the opportunity to go over there, see what it's like, get that experience under my belt. So yeah, it was, getting married and then coming off of the 2004 Olympics and that whole kind of just, man, I was traveling a ton and just getting to do, so many amazing things. And seeing our sport, being able to just, have that light on it and our athletes was a dream. And then boom, it was like motherhood and being a wife just came like that. And then it was like, but I still want to play. I still want to compete. And so I kind of just had that mindset throughout. I ended up we had tryouts, I think 6 weeks after I had my son, and I was able to try out. It was kind of a miracle as far as,
you were trying out 6 weeks after you had your son.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Oh my God.
Yeah. And honestly, like the same thing, I was so in it that I didn't really, and then like having my other two, I was like, holy cow, I can't even imagine, but it was just this mindset thing of like, this is what I'm going to do. And so, yeah, going in, I feel like in 2008, it was this, man, when you're like, I packed up my son for 18 days to go to Beijing with us for the World Championships. And it's just that perspective of there's so much more. And when I am away, like it means that much more. Like if I'm going to sacrifice my time away from him, then I'm going to be all in no matter what, and being able to come home and be like, man, he could care less. I mean, I always like to think that he wanted me to win, and he liked me a whole lot better when I did win, or I liked myself probably, right, a lot better when I did win, when we won. But so just perspective of like there was so much more out there than just softball.
Yeah, I love that. So, but like you said, perspective, there's so much more out there than softball. However, you are still fully committed because you, like you said, 6 weeks post-pregnancy, you're trying out for the World Championship team. You make that team, and then you again make Beijing 2008. So as you, like, at what was the lead up into Beijing like as compared to Athens, in the sense of, I think before the Olympics started, you guys knew that this was the last time softball was going to be in the Olympics. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what was that? What was the lead in to that Olympics like compared to the last one? Knowing, one, you're in a different place in life, and then two, this is the last opportunity to be an Olympian as a softball player.
Yeah, even still to this day, it's like, how in the world? It seems surreal is the only word that I can think about. Like, we coming off of 2004 and our sport had, never, been able to do what, we had. And to see, I think, the progression from 96, the first Olympics, for countries around the world, like they're finally getting established, and like they're coming in competing hard against us, and to see just these programs and the youth being able to look forward to the Olympic Games and the funding and all of these programs worldwide that have, finally now like are at a point where, okay, they have their feet under them and now they're coming in competing hard. And so we're right there on the cusp of kind of breaking through, I think, worldwide with our sport. And then just boom, it was just honestly like a death, and it's like, and two, I think just being, you know, a Title IX kid, and man, like every year something else was added. There was more to look forward to. There was more opportunity. I remember, you know, in high school, like my parents would cut out any article on a female athlete, like it, you know, forget softball. Like it was any female athlete that I just wanted to tap into and read about and hear about. And then here we made it to the cover of Sports Illustrated and then just wiped out. Like, and it was almost like, okay, this isn't going to happen. They're going to find a way.
Yeah.
They're going to make it right. Like it didn't make sense. And I think the hardest part was knowing, you know, especially the younger girls on our team and the girls that were like lining up to make the next quad. And the little girls, I mean, you're going around doing these tours and you just have to look them in the eye and be like, man, the goal that we had, you can't have, or it's not there.
Yeah.
But stay hopeful, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a pretty crappy, it's just, I still can't believe that was taken away, brought back, taken away again. So it's very odd to me. And I can't imagine as an athlete, like you said, it was like a death. Like that's a dream that you kind of have to mourn because it's no longer an opportunity. There's no longer a chance that you can or should dream it. Sadly.
I think for a female athlete, you're like pushing towards more for the next generation. Like you want to do what the women before you did. And luckily our college game here in the US, but man, like just those countries all over the world that are so hopeful of the national team and that, you know, opportunity. And now it's just wiped away.
Yeah. So Beijing 2008, you guys win silver. Obviously not the way, you know, you wanted to go out. No one wants to win silver. That's just the reality. It's still a medal though. And like, I say that because I've won a bronze and I'm like, it's better than nothing. But, how can you talk about that feeling once that final game was played and like, just even, do you remember what you were thinking and what was going through your mind as that Olympic chapter came to a close?
Well, it was, we were crushed. Like not, you know, it was like the thought of it not being in the next Olympics and then let alone like walking away with silver. It was a devastating blow. Like for us, the standard was gold, nothing but gold. And then everyone kind of saying like the best thing for our sport would be that Japan won because it would be proving to the world that softball is growing and globally, you know, these other countries are catching up. And so it's like, man, like, I don't, you know, of course we want good for the sport and world, but we wanted to win, you know, totally. And I just remember coach like bringing us together after, and we were devastated and crushed and so many emotions now, right? Both like we lost and a huge loss for our sport. And he just said that there's going to be a lot harder things than a silver medal and that's going to come your way. And it's so true. And that is, it's still hard to look at and it still stings. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, like, man, it's like you said, it's a medal. How many people, let alone even make it to the Olympics, let alone come home with a medal?
Yeah.
But we're competitors and we want to win.
For sure. No, definitely. So 2010, you retired. What went into that decision for you?
So my husband played baseball. He was in AAA at the time and it was just a grind. Like literally I had my son Ace with us on the road and then I would fly home and see him for like 2 days and then fly back. And so it was like 2 days, 3 days a month. It was funny. He like walked into the clubhouse with Casey, my husband, and he threw a ball underhand. And I just remember like Casey coming out and be like, okay, it's time. Like, it's time. Like we got to get him going. And he was about for him to start like, so he started kindergarten in 2011. And so it was like, man, I want to have more kids. He was 4. And I just felt like it was time. And we ended up going to the World Championships in 2010. And okay, this is our time to get the gold back to the US. We ended up beating Japan. So it's kind of like closure in a way, like, okay.
That's actually a great time and reason, you know, to retire. Like that you can't, to me, I think anyone who can retire on a win, redemption, any sort of that type of thing, it's a great way to go out. Do you think
Totally.
that you would have?
And I was ready. I had a piece within me. Like I was wanting to have more kids. I was ready to just kind of slow it down to some degree, and get to see my husband, honestly. And man, it's like hard enough doing long distance when it's just you two, but then like throw a kid in the mix and man, we lived on airplanes and it was nuts.
Yeah, I can't imagine having two people playing, having the softball, baseball lifestyle. I mean, athletes in general, but like baseball is just another level of insanity when it comes to schedule.
Oh, totally.
So I can imagine. So you've touched on a handful of, or you talked about your college coach being a big a mentor and, you know, having a big impact on your career. And our sponsors at WIS know that mentorship is key to building a more inclusive and positive sum world, and that a great coach can make all the difference in someone's career. So looking back at your incredible career, who is that coach or mentor from your early days that had a major impact on you today?
I would say my dad.
Oh, I love that.
So he was never my team coach, but he was kind of evolved into my pitching coach. And he just, man, like he set the bar so dang high. Like, I don't even think I ever came close to the bar, but he knew how far to push without pushing too much, but not letting me be comfortable. And I think forcing is a strong word, but like pushing me into those situations to where I was growing, I think, as a person, as an athlete. And man, like every single pitch he would kind of critique, you know, there was always something to be working on and something to correct. And so as much as it was, you know, it was rough and annoying at times, I'm so thankful for him, because especially now being a parent, you're like, that role sucks. Like that is the worst role. But like, you have to do it, you know, you have to, it's that tough love that is going to push you into greatness and to lead you to whatever passion you have, and to bring out those gifts within you, and embracing those hard moments and keeping you challenged, and seeing that greatness within you. I think honestly, like he would always say, like he believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself.
I love that. So switching gears from mentorship to something that's not different, but so you talked about how in 2004 you guys win, you come home and you were crazy busy, appearances, I'm sure, photo shoots, you were the face of softball. So at what point did you stop and think like, oh my God, like I'm famous? I want to know if there's ever a moment where you're like, oh God, like I don't know why I'm saying it like it's a bad thing, but I guess I just like, because I remember you in 2004 being like, oh my God, like she's one of the most popular athletes in America.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I just remember like flying and things like that. And I just remember being like, I play softball, like, and it's like, how did this even get here? You know, like I'm just a softball player. And so it was just so cool for, I think, young girls and for our sport to be able to, you know, kind of relate to and push towards and have these opportunities that, and I have to say too, like, man, like it wasn't easy, and I did a lot, maybe too much at times, especially trying to compete and do that. But I just knew like, this is the platform I've been given, and I've got to be able to use it for the sport and for the next generation and for these young girls. And it was just like, man, I grew up, you know, Dodger fan, and here now, my daughter now, it's so cool. Like she's watching softball on TV every weekend, you know, especially with postseason coming around. Like it's just an honor to be a part of and to have the opportunity.
I mean, I think it's pretty cool. And I read that you produced the first softball specific product line with Mizuno. And before that, softball players had to buy pretty much just baseball products. So to me, that just shows the impact that you had. You had the ability to take a company and be like, no, you need to make softball specific products, and they weren't doing that before. Like, how does that impact, knowing that you had that and you were a catalyst for that? What does that feel like?
Just so cool. I mean, Dot Richardson and Lisa Fernandez, like they had their first signature bats, right? So that to me was like, holy cow, like this is possible,
Yeah.
you know? And then for me to have the opportunity to work with Mizuno and Mizuno be invested in actually like, okay, we can't just put softball on a pair of baseball cleats. Like we're going to design these cleats for not only the game of fast pitch softball, but the female athlete and how the female athlete body works, you know? And so just to be able to combine technology, I think, and the opportunity. And here, like, man, softball was always slow pitch. So it's like you could have a softball glove, but it was a slow pitch glove. And now you walk into any store and see a whole, basically, like aisle of fast pitch, you know, equipment. So super cool to see how far we've come.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's like you were part of, you know, like you said, there were players that came before you, but you definitely are a player that laid the groundwork and foundation for, you know, girls to look up to you and have the opportunity to buy softball specific products, which is just silly to think that they weren't made before, but it's the reality. Another thing that, you know, contributing to your legacy, you've teamed up with Arm & Hammer to create the Jennie Finch Empowerment Award, which acknowledges deserving players from around the country who best embody the values of a champion, both on and off the field, with a $10,000 scholarship. This is amazing. I love this. Can you talk a little bit more? Because I think more people should know about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so thankful to be partnered and the opportunity to work with Arm & Hammer and invest in young athletes. It's been really neat just to see Major League Baseball dive in to the grassroots level and care about women in sports, you know, girls baseball, girls softball, and then to be able to team up with Arm & Hammer and shine a light on these young ladies who are so remarkable. I mean, I always go to these events and, you know, meet these young ladies, and I'm like the one supposed to be coming to inspire and encourage. And like, I always leave so inspired and in awe of just everything that they are. So it's really cool just to be able to meet these young stars and see what they've been able to overcome and what they're hopeful for their future, and just give them a sense of like, we believe in you. You can do this. Go shine, sister. We're here to cheer you on and support you. So I'm so thankful for Arm & Hammer and them investing in women.
I love it. One last thing I want to talk about before we do our quick hitting questions to end. You used to do, or you might still be doing, this Jennie challenge where you would strike out a lot of MLB players. And
yeah, I'm not doing that
no,
no longer. No.
Okay. No. Well, you were, and
I get asked quite a bit though, but I'm like, nope.
You're like, not today. Yeah. What's the best story in terms of striking out an MLB star? Because Cal Ripken Jr. is quoted as saying that like some MLB players were like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to be embarrassed, like, and not be able to hit off of Jennie. But I'm like, what makes you think you can? You know? So I think it was great. Do you have anything, like any funny stories from doing that?
Yeah, just so fun. I think just to be able to kind of, I mean, Alex Rodriguez standing in the batter's box and like looking up and saying like, that's a Randy Johnson slider, you know? So just, I think to be able to compare
the crossover,
the two, totally. And the reaction time. So when I release the ball, I'm at 36 feet from the hitter. So my 72 mile an hour screwball is equivalent to high 90s in baseball as far as reaction time. So to have these guys standing there and not that we had to have them validate us and what we do, but you know, it's one thing to watch softball and see it, but then like to actually like be in there and realize how quick the game is, and how fast it is and how much our pitches move, you know, all of those things. So it was really cool. Yeah, I always kind of end like my speeches and stuff with, I was like 36-0 or something against the major leaguers. It was my third season
way.
This week in baseball. So I'd interview the player and then at the end, like, hey, you want to try to hit off me? And usually like by this time, both teams would come out and watch, you know, and managers and all that. And it was so funny because the first spring training that I did this, like everyone was like, no, she can't do it. Like liability. We don't want the players to get hurt. And like, one of the managers comes out and was like, I'll do it. And I ended up striking him out. And then Mike Cameron came out of center field and he was like, give me the bat. I'm doing it. At that point, no one's stopping him. Right. So like, that's really what opened the door to do it. But yeah, I was Scott Spezio. We're at Angel Stadium and I would always throw 2 rise balls and kind of make them look silly on the third pitch with a changeup. And Stacy Newman, our Olympic catcher, was there catching. And so she knew third pitch was going to be a changeup. So rise ball, swing and a miss. And I always like climb the ladder, throw it a little bit higher, bigger of a swing, like they're digging down now, right? And bigger of a swing means like just worse, like you got to shorten up and stay quick, but they're like not trying to make contact, they're trying to go yard. Yeah. And then third pitch, I tried to sneak in a changeup and he makes contact and he looks up, he's like, Finch, you got to mix it up. And I was like, what? He was like, scouting report was third pitch is going to be a changeup. I was like, what? You got to be kidding me.
They had a scouting report on you. Totally. Oh my God.
Tell young girls like, hey, I never made it to the big leagues, but I had a scouting report in the big leagues. You never know where your dreams will take you. Keep dreaming, keep believing, go big.
That is such a good story. Oh my God, that's amazing. That is so good. That like made my week right there. All right. This has been incredible. Thank you for taking the time. We're going to close with some quick fire questions. So the first one is, where do you keep your Olympic medals?
In our safe.
Smart.
Yeah. It's fireproof.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the smart answer. When was the last time you clocked yourself on a pitch?
Oh gosh. I don't know. At practice not too long ago, one of the moms like had their little phone radar gun out because she thought I was throwing hard. Like, yes, but they're terrible. And so I was at practice and I guess she thought I was throwing too hard to the girls, but I'm like, we're late. We have to be able to hit fast pitching. So I was speeding it up and she's like, you're throwing 72. I was like, if I'm throwing 72, like put me on the field because I'm going to still go compete and play. Like I am not throwing 72. So probably that was the last time.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
And I had to break it to her. I'm like, I'm throwing like 52. That's about it. That's all. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. Besides yourself, who's the greatest softball pitcher ever?
Oh, Lisa Fernandez, hands down. She's the GOAT.
All right. How do you take your coffee?
Coffee. Normally black.
Okay.
But if I'm feeling a little edgy or just needing a little sweet something, I'll add some cream and some flavoring or something.
All right. Who has been the biggest inspiration in your life?
I would say my parents.
I love it.
Backbone.
Yeah.
Support system.
Absolutely. All right. And then have you been following this year's College World Series? Clearly you have.
I have, yes. I cannot wait. I'm headed there on Thursday. So
are you?
Yes. Bear Down, Arizona.
Who's your pick to take it all? Arizona? They're going to do it?
I got to go Arizona. Heck yes. Yes.
All right.
It's not going to be an easy road, but I got to go with my Wildcats.
All right. I love it. Well, that is all I have for you today. Jennie, thank you so much for the time. It was great to talk to you again. I remember seeing you back in the day, absolute legend, celebrity, just have done so much for the sport and, you know, female athletes in general. So thank you for that and keep being amazing.
Thank you. Right back at you. It's an honor. And I feel like, man, I need a podcast because like every question you would ask me, I'm like, I want to know her answer.
Yeah, right.
So if I start a podcast, you better be on it.
You got it, girl. I'll be there.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Thank you. The Players Pod wouldn't be possible without our partners at WIS. WIS helps entrepreneurs and business leaders fulfill their potential by turning temporary roadblocks into long-term wins. No matter your business needs, WIS is ready to team up and take your company to the next level. So head to WIS.com to learn more about how they can help your business on its championship journey. That's WISS.com to find the teammates you need to accelerate your dreams and achieve your business goals today.